Okay, if you look over on the left-hand side of your chart, you'll see the money lines. The money lines will rise up from the head and spine line, travel up towards the mercury finger, the pinky finger. These lines will reflect how many income streams you'll experience at any given time. The timeline starts at around age 20 at the head and spine line, and when it transverses that heart line, that's about age 45. And the area between the top of the heart line and the bottom of the little ring around the little finger is the late 40s and up into your 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s and beyond. There's a timeline that runs up through that. Now, these are any income streams from jobs you have or spouse's jobs, investments, inheritance, or any money that comes into your household. And you've got to count student loans, anything that increases your income into your household. Later on, we'll show you how to correlate these lines with achievement lines and the fate line. And it looks like from age 20 to 41, there's one line, one income stream. And then from 41 to 49, there's two lines. From 49 to 69, there's four lines. And then from 69 to 80, there's two lines, two income streams. All right, moving on to your relationship and marriage lines. That area just above the flirt lines, just below the bottom ring of that mercury or that little finger, are your relationships and your marriages. These horizontal lines sit between the top of the heart line and the bottom of the ring on that little finger. There's a timeline there, and you divide these up into three sections. Now, coming up from the bottom, that first section is your 20s and 30s, the middle section is your 40s and 50s, and that third section is 60 and above. You'll read those lines beginning from the back of the hand, which is the start of the relationship or the marriage, towards the palm, which is later on. The lighter lines will be relationship lines, and the darker ones, the more prominent lines, will stand out and have a great density and color to them, reflect your marriages. Okay, now as we take a look at the horizontal lines on the edge of your hand, I'll see a couple of little relationships there, and then we see a really strong marriage line. And it's got some good color to it, goes along nice and consistent. You don't see any big breaks in the line or islands. So it goes along pretty good. And then you've got a little relationship there, way up later in your life, up there in your late 70s. Now the children lines come down vertically from the bottom of that ring around the mercury finger, and you count them from the inside of your palm to the outer edge. And these can be biological children, stepchildren, adopted, godchildren, or nieces and nephews. Any child that you build a strong bond with. Now as we take a look at those little vertical lines, those are the children lines that come down from the ring around that little finger, that mercury finger. You see the two children lines, then there's a little gap, and there's a few lines behind that. Those are grandchildren lines. We usually don't count those in the grandparents' hands. We get a better count of those if we look at the children's hands. But they look like a couple of pretty robust lines, a good bond. The fate line, this is in your right hand only, reflects changes in your lifestyle or career, and they're really actually kind of interconnected. There's a timeline that starts at the bottom of the palm. It's right there right around the wrist, which is your younger years, and it travels up towards the middle Saturn finger for your later years. Now, whenever there's a break in that line, it will show a change in your lifestyle or career, and if you have more than one line, that depicts additional responsibilities like another job or taking care of someone, or something like an intense hobby, or maybe even a cause that you're a part of. Now, this fate line will also show how long you'll live in your present state of health, and this is barring any foreseen accidents or disease. Now, that fate line starts at the base of the palm and travels up, and if it starts right in the center, you're kind of a private person. If it starts on the outside, you're a social person. And you have kind of a combination of social and private characteristics, meaning you don't mind being around people sometimes, but at the end of the day, you'd rather spend time at home alone, away from others, to decompress. Okay, now if you take a look down in the bottom right-hand corner of your chart, and you'll see the fate line, and this is when you have changes in career or lifestyle. And it looks like from age 20 to 31, there's one line. That'd be one job or one responsibility, with changes there at age 28, 30, and 37. And then from 37 to 40, you have two lines. And now, like we talked about before, this could be two jobs, or maybe a job in taking care of someone, or a job in working on some kind of a cause or a really intense hobby. And then from 40 to 56, you've got three lines with changes there at around age 41, 49, and 56. And then from 56 on up into your 80s, you've got two lines. And then that fate line goes up there to about age 89. Okay, we talked about a little bit earlier how to put the money lines, the achievement lines, and the fate line together. And let's see, you're 53. We're going to start here right at age 41. And you can always work backwards and check those. It looks like you had a pretty good sized achievement there at around age 41. which that kind of changed your lifestyle or career when you look down on that fate line. And you had an increase of income streams there. Then another achievement at age 43. Then at age 49 you had an achievement, and that looks like that also changed your career lifestyle. And another increase in income streams. And then it looks like you have coming up another achievement, which is going to change your lifestyle and career right there at age 56. And then you got a couple of big ones there at age 61 and 66. So that's how you kind of put all these lines together to see the big picture. All right, let's move on to your guardian angels. Now, who your guardian angels are will show in your left hand, and your left hand only. If you've had a visit or some type of intervention or even an interaction with them, that will show in your right hand. So let's start with who your guardian angels are. Now, as we look in this left hand, who your guardian angels are represented by a line that runs parallel to the lifeline. If you look on your hand chart, you can see where the lifeline is. It starts up there between your index and your thumb and travels down your thumb or down around your wrist. And there's a timeline on that lifeline that starts at your earliest age and progresses as you grow older. Age 10 is right at the very edge of your palm, right there between your thumb and Jupiter finger, and as that travels down, you draw an imaginary line straight down from the inside of your index or that Jupiter finger, kind of that area right there between your index and your middle Saturn finger. That is about age 20. As you travel down the line to where that lifeline turns right at the kind of the bottom base of that thumb, and it goes around the wrist, that's right around age 40, and as it gets down around the edge of your palm, the outside edge around the wrist, that's about age 56, and then it goes backwards on around the back of the hand, and that's your 60s, 70s, 80s, and beyond. Now, where that guardian angel line touches on your lifeline is the age that you were when a loved one passed away. There will be a third small line that intersects that guardian angel line, and this shows who your guardian angel is. This is kind of showing where they passed away, and this can be grandpas, grandmas, parents, aunties, uncles, siblings, cousins, nieces, nephews, children, or close friends, anyone that you had a strong bond with. Now, who your guardian angels are show at these ages: ages 19, 22, 26, and 41. Now, if you've had a visit or any kind of intervention from your guardian angels, it'll show in your right hand. These are the same lines as in the left, but they run parallel to the lifeline, and they travel up and eventually touch on the lifeline. The small intersecting lines are not present in the right hand because that line reflects the death of a loved one. Now, these show a visit or some kind of intervention or interaction, such as if, like maybe you received a warning that caused you to avoid an accident or something tragic, or you're in a bad accident and survived, or if your guardian angel just come to check in on you and give you a message in a dream or something like that. And I really get a kick out of some of the dozens of stories that clients have told about interactions they've had with their guardian angels. And I hope you don't mind, I've got to tell you about this story. And it's one that really resonates in my mind, is when Kat was reading the hand of a little older gentleman. He was probably in, probably his 50s. And she discovered a prominent guardian angel line that showed in his hand right around age 40. And she asked him what happened here. Well, this poor guy got really emotional, and without hesitation, he starts to describe in detail how he was sitting at home alone one evening, and he's getting a little concerned about where his 16-year-old daughter was, who had gone out to a high school football game, and she was late getting home, and he was getting a little concerned. And he tells about how he was sitting in his favorite chair in the living room, and he glanced at a portrait of his deceased wife that was sitting up on the mantel, and he heard her voice clear as day. But this was more in his head than kind of audible. And it states how he needed to go out and find his daughter. So he called his sister, and they ran all over town looking for his daughter. They were eventually guided to this little mom and pop restaurant, where they got in there, and he saw his daughter standing out back behind the restaurant. And there were a bunch of guys on bikes, and they were riding around her and harassing her. So he went to his car and grabbed a baseball bat, and he went out and chased them off. Well, it turns out that his daughter had gone to get some shakes with some of her friends after the game, and she somehow got a wrong turn and ended up out back of the restaurant. So as this guy was getting his hand read, he was telling Kat this story, and his daughter was sitting right next to him, and she's nodding her head in agreement, and she's getting really kind of emotional. Kat then says to her, "Show me your right hand." And sure enough, his daughter had the same very prominent guardian angel line right there at age 16. So the lines matched up. So isn't that interesting? And we're actually going to publish a book in the near future with all those amazing stories in there. Okay, now, any visits from your guardian angels or any kind of divine intervention or celestial protection shows at these ages: ages 14, 19, 26, 41, and 46. Alright, moving on to the sixth sense. The sixth sense is your intuition. It shows up as a nice little mound just under that index or that Jupiter finger on the right hand, and you want to see that nice little fat pad there. It's called the mound of Jupiter. Now, as we take a look at the mound of Jupiter on your hand, just under your index finger, and your mound of Jupiter is actually pretty robust. It means that you do have a good sixth sense, a good intuition. Let me tell you how to use or develop that intuition. Whenever you have a problem that seems difficult to solve, find a nice quiet room in the house, one without distractions, and sit down, turn off the lights, relax and quiet your mind. And when you're nice and calm, ask out loud for a solution to your problem. Then put it down and out of your mind and walk away for about probably 30 minutes and let your intuition and your subconscious work on that answer. And when you come back to it, you should have an answer. Listen to the small promptings, the still small voice in the back of your mind, and you should receive an answer fairly quickly. And this actually works really well at night. If you do this just before you go to sleep and let that subconscious mind kind of work on that overnight, you'll find that when you wake, you have a good answer to your problem. Now, you have what is called creative achievements. These are awesome lines to have. These lines rise up from the heart line up towards the ring finger, the sun finger, and that means you're going to be recognized for something creative. Whether you write a book or literature, develop some kind of art, music, or even invent something, a different way of doing something. It means it's going to be very substantial and you're going to be recognized for it. I was looking at some palm prints here a while back of Albert Einstein, and he's got a couple of lines, three lines that go up there, and then they turn into like 10 or 15 lines, and we know what he was recognized for, all the things that he did to contribute to humanity. Now, you should have received several charts with your handreading. Look for the hand analysis chart. It has the big hand on it, and we'll work off that chart and bring the other charts in as we need them. The first thing you need to know is that your left hand is your past. Your right hand is your present and future. It does not matter what your dominant hand is. Most of the work we do is on the right hand. Sometimes we'll reference that left hand. Before we get started, let me give you a little insight about palmistry and how the lines and markings are named. It's about 2,000 or 3,000 years old. Some say it's even a little bit older than that. And they've gone through and they've named all the fingers in certain sections of the hand with names of Greek gods and goddesses, or with astrological names. So that index finger is the Jupiter finger, the middle finger or business finger is the Saturn finger, the ring finger is the sun finger, some like to call it the Apollo finger or the finger of Apollo, the little or the pinky finger is the Mercury finger. That section there between the head and the heart line is called the Mars area. Another important area is the base of the thumb, that little fat pad. It's the mound of Venus, the goddess of love. This will reflect your sexual libido. It also shows how well you're hydrated. You want to see a little fat pad there so tight you can hardly pinch or pick up the skin. And you look to be slightly dehydrated. You can go online and see how much water you need for your height and weight. Okay, look down there on your chart where it says palm shape. The shape of your palm is your most important talent, and it looks like you have a square palm, which means you're athletic, you're active, you're practical. If you're male, you're macho. Sitting at a desk really is not your thing. Okay, look in the upper right-hand corner of your chart, and this is your fingertip shapes. They reveal your personality type. It looks like you have a combination of fingertips. You have spatulate fingertips, meaning you're intense, dramatic, energetic. Most actors and actresses have these fingertip shapes. And you have round fingertips, meaning you're intuitive, quick, compassionate. You should actually be in the health field. Okay, now the length of your fingers in relationship to the length of your palm and other fingers are your talents, what you're good at. Long fingers mean one thing, short fingers mean another. No one gets shorted. Everyone has their own unique talents. Nothing is good or bad. They all have their good qualities. Let's start with the thumb. You have a long thumb. It means you'll do well in life. You have good manual dexterity like carpenters, artists, and surgeons. Alright, moving on to the Jupiter finger. That is your index finger. You have a long index finger, which means you have a great sales ability. These are fingers of politicians, teachers, supervisors. It's a leadership finger. Okay, your business or your Saturn finger. Now this is the finger that is the basis of all measurement for all the other fingers. It should be almost as long as your palm. And you have a short Saturn finger, meaning you're compassionate. You're very concerned with social issues. You'll give away the store because you're more concerned about your fellow man than you are the bottom line. As a business owner, you need to seek the help of others that have knowledge and experience in business matters. Now, the ring finger, or the sun finger, some call it the finger of Apollo, is your creative finger. It represents your right brain. And you have a short sun finger, which means you're practical, systematic, and organized. Finally, your pinky finger, or your Mercury finger. This is your scholarly finger. It represents your left brain. And you have a short mercury finger. It means you're a hands-on person. You're active. You get things done. Okay, let's start with the lines and markings on the palm of your right hand. Look on your chart and find the heart line. It's the top horizontal line just under the fingers. Now follow the heart line to the end just underneath that mercury finger, or that pinky finger. Those are your flirt lines, the little tassels on the end of the heart line. That's a good indicator of how well you interact with others. And you've got some good tassels there, some good flirt lines. It means that you do interact well with people. In fact, you're kind of a social person. It means you kind of put yourself out there to meet new people and to interact with them. Okay, now the spine line, which is also called the head line, reveals the health of your spine. And it'll show if you have problems with vertebrae or discs in your back. It will show if they are subluxated. And what this means is they're turned out of place, or they could be damaged, or you could have a condition such as scoliosis or a twisting of the spine. It starts right there between the thumb and index finger, or the Jupiter finger, and travels across the palm just under the mercury finger. Now pull up your spine chart. It's called the chart of effects of spinal misalignment, and that section underneath the index finger, if you're on your spine line underneath the Jupiter finger, that represents your cervical spine, kind of that neck area, that 1C to 7C, and it goes down to what's called the dowager's hump. This is the hump that you see in older folks when they're walking around and they're kind of bent over there at the neck, just under the bottom of the neck and the top of the back. That's where your cervical spine is. Then the area just underneath that Saturn, or that middle finger, is your thoracic spine. This is your 1T down to your 12T. That's the back that goes all the way down to your waist. Then there's that area underneath the sun finger, or the ring finger, and that's your lumbar area. This is 1L to 5L. This is kind of your waist and your hips. Then of course you go down to your sacrum and your coccyx to the tailbone, which is underneath that little, or that mercury finger. Let me tell you a little bit about Kat. Has a master's degree in health education, and when she was going to college, she was developing her craft in hand analysis, and she came across a book from a longtime doctor, Dr. Eugene Scheinman, and he talked about how your spinal health absolutely shows in your hands. And working with Kat over the years, it's proven to be very real and accurate. And I always get a little chuckle when I hear back on some of the past clients that have taken their charts to their chiropractor or their physical therapist and having an evaluation, and the medical care provider was amazed how spot on the charts were. Okay, let's look at your chart. If you look over there on the left-hand side of your chart, you'll see an image of a spine, and you can see where Kat circled some of the vertebrae. Now, if you'll take a look at the top of the spine there, it looks like from that 3C down to 5C, and then 6C down to the 1T, the thoracic, kind of right there in the middle and the bottom of the neck to the top of the shoulders. And let's see, let's look in your information. Oh, you didn't say anything if you have any damage or anything in that neck. But then if you look over to the areas, you'll see the column that shows the kind of the areas of the body that affects. Then of course the effects all the way over to the right will show the symptoms that happens with that. And let's see, you said you feel a little bit run down now. If you look at that 7C, when that neck gets out of place, that could affect that thyroid gland a little bit, so that can maybe be contributing to a little bit of that kind of run down feeling. So you can look around the chart there and see, what symptoms you have. And then what we usually suggest is to get in to see a good chiropractor or even a good physical therapist and see if they can't kind of get that neck realigned and get those vertebrae straightened up. We find a lot of times that when people get those realigned, that they just have a lot more energy, a lot more ambition, and they just feel a lot better during the day. So that's something to consider. And I've seen many of Kat's clients and people she's done readings for, they'll take these charts down and show it to their doctors, and it's kind of a funny story how people will come back and their doctors are just amazed how accurate these spine charts are. Now you also have a health line that correlates with the head and spine line, and this line represents your general health. It starts at the bottom, kind of center of the palm, and it rises up towards that mercury, or that little finger, and it stops at the head and spine line. And it should be a nice straight line without breaks or islands. This shows the health of your gut, like your stomach, your intestines, gallbladder, and the internal organs, and really more specifically your digestive system. If that line looks healthy, your general health is usually pretty good. Now as we take a look at the health line there, your health line actually goes up pretty good, but then it kind of travels off, and you have a couple of little lines that are like little sister lines there, and that would indicate a little bit of stress on those internal organs, more specifically on the kind of the digestive system, which when that's not running good, that can make you feel run down too. It kind of makes your overall health kind of down a little bit, so you got a little bit of stress there on that. But I think that once you get in there and get that neck straightened up, that's going to help a little bit to kind of clean those lines up.